bridge was paid for today by the cost of 3 iron workers' lives.
A deadly construction collapse on the I-280 bridge sends workers scrambling and rescue crews racing to the scene. Tonight, team coverage on the latest from the scene and eyewitness accounts of what happened, first at 10.
First, fast, fair. Fox Toledo News, first at 10, starts right now.
Right now, you're taking a live look at the I-280 bridge where a large piece of construction equipment fell today, killing 3 people and injuring 5. Authorities are still on the scene.
Now here's a look at the scene from earlier this afternoon from Sky Fox. You can see that the piece of equipment fell off of the construction part of the bridge onto the road below. This is home video shot by Ray Bollinger just minutes after the collapse. You can see rescue workers trying to help the injured and clear the scene. It's a story you saw first on Fox Toledo. And tonight we have Team Fox coverage on the latest from the scene, live with Fox Toledo's Carl Rundgren. Carl, what do you see?
Well, as you can see, things are not much different right now than they were earlier today. You see mangled metal, twisted steel. Joe Rutherford from ODOT referred to it as catastrophic, a word that pretty much everyone that saw the crash would have to agree with. This was definitely a catastrophe, and these pictures only in part show you how absolutely horrifying this must have been when this massive crane came crashing down around 2:30 this afternoon, sending both workers and motorists scrambling for cover.
Well, this is a day we certainly hoped would never come.
A day that ODOT could have never predicted. The massive I-280 bridge project turned into a massive disaster scene when this huge 2 million pound truss used to lift cement blocks crashed to the ground.
Crane started coming down, it was like slow motion, and it just crumbled like aluminum foil.
Construction workers and rescue crews both tried to reach the injured and get them to hospitals as fast as they could. Meanwhile, traffic on the major roadway stopped and will now stay stopped.
Both directions of I-280 will remain closed until further notice.
Slowly, rescue crews removed the living, then went after the dead. A hard moment for fellow iron workers who rushed to the bridge when they heard the grim news.
I worked with all 3 of those guys, and they were great guys.
When we're in the air, it's a dangerous business. But the bridge was paid for today by the cost of 3 iron workers' lives.
Now 3 different groups are conducting investigations tonight to find out why those lives were lost. The coroner's office, Toledo Police, and OSHA, who's already on the scene tonight. Frucon, the contractor working the project, will also be working on their own investigation, trying to figure out why a project that was going so right suddenly went so wrong, changing so many lives.
I gotta go.
Now again, the names of those victims are not being released tonight, so the families can be notified. That's going on right now. The city is gathering the families together at an undisclosed location to give them the latest information. They want to make sure the families stay notified, the families of those injured victims. And likewise, as for the cleanup, a question a lot of people are still asking themselves, still no word on exactly how this happened or how that cleanup is going to happen, and likewise, no word on how long I-280 is going to stay closed. And we'll have more updates continuing throughout the show. Reporting live in East Toledo, Carl Rundgren, Fox Toledo News, first at 10.
News of the tragic accident traveled quickly this afternoon.
Police and rescue workers received a barrage of calls. This from folks wanting to know what happened. Team Fox coverage continues tonight with our Tamika artist, who's on the scene now with what eyewitnesses say. Tamika, who have you been talking with?
Well, we've been speaking mostly to residents who live near the scene of this construction accident. They were among the first, in fact, to call 911. Some of them tell me the impact was so great, in fact, they could feel the ground shaking underneath of them. They said they had no idea what was going on and certainly no idea what they were in for. For 2 years, Toledo residents have been watching the I-280 bridge go up. Today, they watched part of it come crashing down.
Horrible tragedy for the city, for the families.
Andy Garcia lives just west of the construction site and was home alone when he says he felt and heard a loud rumble.
And I looked outside, the glass kind of shaking. I thought it might be the wind.
Gary Ackerman lives across the street and had just finished eating with his wife when the launching truss crashed.
While I was in the shower, she heard the crash and felt the house shake, and we didn't know what it was.
I looked out the window, seen the crane start moving. I turned my back just for a second. I heard a big thump. Next thing I seen the crane go on down.
Ray Bollinger headed to the bridge with his video camera, shooting some of the most graphic video of the first rescue attempts.
When I went over there, seeing one of the bodies hang on there, I can feel what's going through people's minds.
Police ambulances everywhere. I was heading across the river, and that's when I saw the wreckage.
And now some wondering if this tragedy won't have far-reaching and long-term effects, turning a project that was once thought to be one of the best things that's happened to Toledo into possibly one of the worst.
We were so far ahead of schedule on this thing, and now we're going to fall way back. And that's not even the biggest problem here. It's the loss of life.
We spoke to many residents who expressed concern for their own safety following this accident. They say that they are not comfortable traveling through this stretch of 280. They won't have to worry about that, though, because the city says that they are not planning to reopen this area until they are certain that everyone is out of harm's way. In the meantime, they're asking everyone to steer clear so that the city and the cleanup crews can do their job. We're on the scene tonight in North Toledo. Tamika Artist, Fox Toledo News, first at 10.
Right now, there are 5 injured victims being treated at St. Vincent Mercy Medical Center, all men. One of the victims is in critical condition and the others are in serious. The other 3 not life-threatening. Fox Toledo's Heather Miller is on the scene at St. Vincent's. Heather?
The first patient arrived here at St. Vincent's right around 3 p.m. But before that even happened, as soon as the hospital even heard about the emergency, the ER activated what they call their emergency alert system. That means once the victims came through the doors, I'm told that each man had his own team of emergency physicians, surgeons, nurses, and others to care for them.
Each and every one was initially evaluated, had laboratory work, x-rays, CAT scans done, and had procedures done to stabilize their injuries. Following that, they were all transported to either critical care units or to monitored beds and trauma beds in order to be further cared for by the trauma team overnight.
According to the hospital, the men are suffering a variety of serious injuries to the spine, chest, abdomen, and extremities. Now, the ER doctors tell me that right now it's still too early to tell just how long these men will have to stay in the hospital. They also say that due to the nature of the injuries, they're really not sure whether or not any of these are going to be permanent. We're at St. Vincent Mercy Medical Center. Heather Miller, Fox Toledo News, first at 10.
Traffic backed up right after the accident happened today. Some drivers were stuck on I-280 for much of the afternoon. But what areas should you avoid in the morning? Fox Toledo's Aaron Deegan's on the scene. Aaron, how are the roads now?
Traffic pretty clear throughout the area right now. Not the case earlier today after the construction collapse on 280, just a few miles north of where we are. ODOT officials and law enforcement taking immediate steps to detour confused drivers, putting up signs and directing traffic, also telling drivers to completely avoid the entire area around 280.
We just had to go out and around. Couldn't get on the expressway. On 280, had to get off. We tried to get off to get to the east side, but you can't.
We stopped traffic on the interstate and then moved into a plan that we have in place involving an accident in the work site.
ODOT officials advising drivers to be aware and continue to avoid this area tonight and tomorrow morning. ODOT recommending taking 795 west to 75 north as an alternate route. Also, if you plan to take the Martin Luther King Bridge, remember there is a weight limit. Trucks and buses are not supposed to use this as a way around 280. And officials want to remind you, if you take 280 for your morning commute, you're going to want to allow plenty of extra time for detours. For more information on alternative routes, you can click onto our website at www.foxtoledonews.com. Reporting on the scene tonight, Aaron Deegan, Fox Toledo News, first at 10.
Many Toledoans have long awaited the construction of this new bridge. When it's complete, this new structure will have 6 lanes and is expected to cut down on traffic. But a bridge of this magnitude is a major job with both milestones and setbacks.
The bridge project broke ground in June of 2002. City, state, and national leaders called it a landmark that would change the city's skyline.
This bridge will give us the most recognized signature bridge in Ohio.
A few months later, another milestone. The first of 3,000 segments, which will comprise the bridge, was produced at the casting yard, an off-site location where much of the production for the bridge is being done. Not to mention, the Maumee River crossing had already set a world record. The cable stays for the bridge, which are the heart of the project, are the largest in the world. Months passed, 350 workers, some local, some not, continue to work on the monumental job. But the building process has not been without minor aches and pains. In March of last year, a crane got stuck in the mud. It eventually became loose and fell. Locally, no one was hurt that day. ODOT says until today, on-site injuries have been minimal, considering more than 1.3 million man-hours have been put into this project.
5 lost time injuries, which is a rate that's about 400% better than what OSHA would say is acceptable for this kind of work.
Until today, the bridge was scheduled to be finished by fall of 2005. That would mean that the biggest project in ODOT's history would be complete 1 year ahead of schedule. It's uncertain how today's tragedy will affect that timeline.
Stay with us tonight for continuing coverage of the I-280 construction collapse. We'll have the latest from the scene and updates on Fox Toledo News first at 4 tomorrow. And remember, you can click on foxtoledo.com for information 24 hours a day.
Coming up on Fox Toledo News first at 10, find out which issue Americans agree is the biggie for this year's presidential election.
And it was a nice surprise. Some astrophysicists discover a new galaxy.
You're looking live at the I-280 bridge in Toledo, the site of a deadly construction collapse today. Continuing coverage on the story is coming up.
And it sure was a nippy late winter's day, that's for sure. Let's go ahead and check out the almanac. 25 degrees was the high today. 5 degrees was the teeth-chattering morning low, both well beneath the averages of 35 and 19. The good news for most of us anyways is that this will easily be the coldest day of the week, and we'll talk a lot more next in Storm Tracker weather.
On a school night, most kids are hitting the books, but one